All right. Welcome to the deep dive today. We are diving into the world of pandas and
Yeah,
best practices for pandas. We're really looking to level up that pandas game. Um,
absolutely.
Take it from just okay to, oh yeah, this is good stuff. You know,
Yeah,
that's what we're aiming for.
exactly. You want to be writing good code. You want to be proud of your code. And you want it to be fast, right?
Yeah, and you know what's really cool is that we have this like stack of resources,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna like break it all down for you.
Absolutely. We're going to synthesize all of this information about best practices in pandas.
Yeah,
And hopefully by the end of the episode, you'll be a pandas
you'll be a
master.
pandas master. All right, so let's jump right in. Okay, so first up, method chaining. This is
Yes.
like
The big
the
one.
one you hear everywhere. But
Yes.
I got to admit, I haven't quite wrapped my head around
Yeah. Mm.
why it's so powerful.
Okay, so imagine you have this data frame, right?
Okay.
And you need to clean it up. You need to maybe filter out some rows, maybe calculate a new column, and
Uh-huh.
then sort the results.
Uh-huh.
Without method chaining, you're going to have all these temporary variables,
Okay.
and you're going to have these nested functions, and it gets messy quickly.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and then you're going to look back at your code like 2 weeks later, and you're not going to know what's going
Yeah,
on.
it'll be a nightmare to debug.
Exactly. But with method chaining, each operation flows right into the next. So it's much more readable. It's
Ah.
much easier to understand. And then when you want to modify your code, it's much easier to go in and change something because it's all right there in front of you.
Oh, so it's like a more efficient way of writing it, too.
Exactly. So you have smaller temporary variables,
Yeah.
and it's actually going to speed up your code,
Really?
especially if you're working with large data sets.
Huh.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's not just about aesthetics, it's about making it, like, run better.
exactly.
Interesting. All right, so how does the pipe method fit into this?
Okay, so the pipe method is really powerful for complex data pipelines.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you have a custom function
Yep.
and you want to apply that within this sequence of operations.
Okay.
The pipe method lets you slot that function right into your workflow.
Hmm.
And again, it keeps everything really readable and modular.
Oh, okay. So it's like building this custom data pipeline piece
Exact.
by piece.
Yeah, think of it like an assembly line.
Oh, okay.
You have your data coming in, and then it goes through each station in the assembly line.
Yeah,
And then by the end, you have your final product.
perfect. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, now in place true. This one tripped me up so many times when I was learning pandas.
Yeah, so a lot of people use this when they're first starting out.
Yeah.
And it seems convenient, but it can really cause problems down the line.
Okay, so should I like never use it?
You should really try to avoid it.
Okay.
So what inplace true does is it actually modifies the original data frame directly.
Hmm.
And so if you're not super careful, you can end up with unexpected side effects.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so when you don't use inplace true, what you're doing is you're creating a new data frame
Okay.
with each operation. And so that means your original data is safe and your code is much more predictable.
Gotcha. So it's like making changes to a blueprint.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to mess up the original.
Exactly. You want to make a copy and make your changes on the copy.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. All right. Now we're getting into the stuff that really gives me a headache. All those like nested brackets when I'm trying to access data.
Yeah, we call that bracket hell.
Bracket hell, yeah, I've been there.
So the way to avoid that is to use dot notation
Okay.
as much as possible.
Yeah.
Dot notation is just a cleaner way to access attributes.
Okay.
And then instead of nested brackets, you can use methods like query, filter, and take. These are much more readable.
Oh, okay. So, it's like choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Okay.
You wouldn't use a hammer to screw in a screw, right?
Right. Okay, makes sense. All right. So what about column labels? Any best practices for that?
Yes. So we want to use Pythonic column labels.
Okay.
That means lowercase.
Mhm.
And then any spaces or special characters, you're going to want to replace those with underscores.
Okay.
And that's just going to make your code more consistent
Okay.
and easier to work with. And then you can use that notation to access them directly, which is really nice.
Right. Okay, that makes total sense. Okay. Speaking of like smooth, efficient code, lambda functions.
Yes.
Those always seem so mysterious to me when I was first learning.
Yeah, lambda functions can be intimidating at first,
Okay.
but they're actually really simple.
Okay.
It's just a way to define an anonymous function
Mhm.
inline in your code.
Okay.
So instead of having to write a separate function, you can just use a lambda function right there in your code.
Got it.
They're really useful for simple operations. For example, if you need to adjust all the prices in your data frame by a certain percentage,
Okay.
you can just write a lambda function to do that right in your method chain.
Oh, okay, so it's just like a mini program that you build right into your code.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay. All right, so last but not least, Axis 1
Yes.
for working with columns. Why is that the best way?
So when you're working with data frames, it's really important to be clear about whether you're working with rows or columns.
Mm-hmm.
And so Axis 1 is a clear way to tell Pandas that you are working with columns.
Okay.
Sometimes people will use Axis columns, but Axis 1 is just more concise.
Okay.
And then also it avoids any ambiguity with the term index, because sometimes the index can refer to the rows.
Right. Okay, so it's just the most, like, clear and concise way to write it.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so, wow, we covered a lot of ground here.
We did.
So, from method chaining and the pipe method to escaping bracket hell
Yes.
and, lambda functions and Axis 1, all of these, it sounds like it's all about creating code that is not just efficient, but also, like, elegant
Yes, definitely.
and readable.
It's about taking pride in your code and making it something that other people can understand
Yes.
and maintain.
Absolutely.
So it's really about those small details
Yep.
that are going to make a huge difference in the long run.
I love that. So what data challenges are you excited to tackle now that you have all of these tools?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'll let you think about that. But thank you so much for joining us today. This was a really awesome deep dive. And to everyone listening, happy coding.
Yes, happy coding, everyone.